그만하자.
This man's name was Soo-hyun. He was the main henchman of the local mafia 15 years ago. Soo-hyuk was decisive in his actions and valued loyalty because he wanted to help his comrades gain power. Soo-hyuk once rushed straight into the tiger's den of the mafia with only a knife and a flashlight. Finally, Soo-hyuk reached the boss. This guy was then taken away to pray, without any mercy. Although the boss successfully took power, Soo-hyuk was imprisoned and sentenced to 15 years. Time passed, and 15 years quickly passed. When Soo-hyuk was released from prison, not a single brother came to pick him up. Only Soo-hyuk's lonely back and a shiny golden business card from Eun-gu remained. Soo-hyuk had become more gentle over time. Soo-hyuk no longer worshipped killing, but only wanted to have a normal life. So the first thing Soo-hyuk did, after being released from prison, was to look for his ex-girlfriend Min-seo. 15 years ago, Soo-hyuk had caused Min-seo an indelible injury. When Min-seo saw Soo-hyuk, she angrily turned around to leave and warned Soo-hyuk not to disturb her and her daughter's life anymore. Only then did Soo-hyuk realize that he also had a 10-year-old daughter named In-bae. Upon knowing of this, Soo-hyuk became even more determined to wash his hands of the sword. Soo-hyuk decided to go to Eun-gu's company. At that time, Eun-gu had cleaned up the gang's activities and turned the company into a listed company. In the lobby, the pure white color also implied Eun-gu's strength and power. Sung-jun was the second in command of the group. When Sung-jun heard that Soo-hyuk was coming, he immediately went to welcome Soo-hyuk. 15 years ago, Sung-jun was still Soo-hyuk's junior, but now Sung-jun has become the second in command of the group. Sung-jun was afraid that Soo-hyuk's return would affect his position. Sung-jun did not show a good attitude towards Soo-hyuk. Even the fresh flowers used to welcome Soo-hyuk were just flowers taken directly from the vase in front of him. When Soo-hyuk saw that, he felt lazy and did not want to say much. Soo-hyuk went straight to Eun-gu's office, where he met his old boss again. Eun-gu welcomed Soo-hyuk back and hugged Soo-hyuk to show his respect for the ethics of the underworld. Eun-gu was about to transfer a territory to Soo-hyuk after he finished his business. Hearing this, Soo-hyuk expressed his opinion. However, Eun-gu realized that the underworld is always the underworld. It is easy to enter but very difficult to withdraw. Although Eun-gu did not say anything on the surface and even approved of Soo-hyuk's decision, he secretly told Sung-jun to monitor Soo-hyuk's every move and gesture for 24 hours. It turned out that Soo-hyuk wanted to join another gang because Sung-jun was wary of Soo-hyuk's existence. Therefore, Sung-jun decided to find an assassin to kill Soo-hyuk in order to end all the troubles. Soo-hyuk walked out of the company and suddenly felt like he had been relieved of his burden. Soo-hyuk went to see Junho to catch up. Junho has now also retired from the underworld and is running a small restaurant. The two of them drank and chatted. Junho said that after Soo-hyuk went to jail, he realized that Sung-jun had taken over Soo-hyuk's position. The brothers who used to follow Soo-hyuk became a thorn in Sung-jun's eye and a thorn in his flesh. Sung-jun racked his brains to find ways to force them to do the most dangerous jobs. The burn on Junho's neck was the best explanation for everything. Later, the brothers died one after another, and Junho saw the situation clearly, so he decided to leave the underworld. Junho took his wife and children to live a normal life. Although this life was not rich, the money earned brought peace of mind. When he saw that Junho was living well, Soo-hyuk did not bother him anymore. Soo-hyuk stood up and walked out of the cafeteria. But as soon as Soo-hyuk left the door, he ran into Sung-jun, who was monitoring him. If it had been in the past, Soo-hyuk would have definitely beaten him up. But now Soo-hyuk is no longer as hot-tempered as before. They looked at each other and smiled. Then Soo-hyuk left. The next day, Soo-hyuk went to find Min-seo. Soo-hyuk wanted to make it clear to Min-seo that he wanted to return to family life. However, Soo-hyuk was surprised to see her fainted on the side of the road. It turned out that Min-seo had a terminal illness and did not have much time left. Soo-hyuk did not have time to think much and quickly drove her to the hospital. flame of hatred burning in Soo-hyuk's heart. In fact, the driver of the SUV was none other than a pair of assassins in love, whom Sung-jun had hired to kill Soo-hyuk. Soo-hyuk took Min-so's phone and went to find his daughter. The father and daughter looked at each other across the road. Their blood relationship made them feel familiar. However, they did not expect that two assassins would appear in the distance. Soo-hyuk also recognized the other person. He immediately told In to go home to avoid them, and he decided to take responsibility for dealing with the two assassins. On this side, Jin-ae saw that her boyfriend had not received any news for a long time. She felt that something was wrong. She immediately called her boyfriend, but on the other end of the line was Soo-hyuk's voice. Jin-ae quickly hung up the phone and took In-bae away. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk realized the dangerous situation and rushed into Min-so's house, but Soo-hyuk discovered that his daughter had disappeared. Soo-hyuk took Jin to a deserted place for interrogation. After asking, Jin was still stubborn and refused to reveal who was behind it. Seeing that, Soo-hyuk decided to take action and broke one of his arms. In such pain that he thought he would die, Jin revealed Sung-jun's name. Hearing that, Soo-hyuk drove straight into the company building. The car was quickly surrounded by Sung-jun's men. Soo-hyuk pulled the gear lever forward and drove straight into the lobby. Sung-jun was hit and fell into the plate. Soo-hyuk got out of the car, grabbed the other person's collar, and asked for In-bae's whereabouts, but Sung-jun just stared blankly. Sung-jun's men ran over in time and kicked Soo-hyuk away, and he ran back to the office to get a gun and shoot randomly at Soo-hyuk. Soo-hyuk hid behind the car and couldn't move. Finally, in a desperate situation, Soo-hyuk had no choice but to drive away. When Sung-jun saw the car had gone far away, he gritted his teeth in anger. Soo-hyuk realized that with that expression, Soo-hyuk's daughter was not in Sung-jun's hands. Soo-hyuk went to a gas station. While filling up the car, he took the opportunity to run to the bathroom to treat the wound on his body. Jin, who was sitting in the back seat, took this opportunity to leave the car and hide in the supermarket. There, Jin asked a passerby to untie him, then he called Jin. It seemed like there was some kind of conspiracy going on. Not long after, when Soo-hyuk came out of the restroom, he saw Jin sitting comfortably eating instant noodles in the supermarket. When Soo-hyuk was about to go in and arrest the person, his phone rang. It was Jin-ae calling. Jin-ae wanted to take Soo-hyuk's daughter in exchange for Jin. Soo-hyuk heard that and agreed. At the same time, Eun-gu came to the company. When he saw the rubble, his heart ached. When he understood the situation, Eun-gu raised his gun and pointed it at Sung-jun's forehead. Sung-jun knelt down on the ground, trembling with fear. Eun-gu criticized Sung-jun for acting on his own and going to kill Soo-hyuk. Eun-gu thought that his action was no different from rushing to his death. However, Eun-gu did not shoot Sung-jun dead, but let him live on the condition that he had to properly handle Soo-hyuk's matter. While waiting to meet Soo-hyuk, Jin-ae made dozens of special bombs. That night, Soo-hyuk brought Jin to the transaction location. He quietly waited for Jin-ae to appear. Not long after, a strong beam of light shone from afar. Then Soo-hyuk got out of the car and restrained both of them. Soo-hyuk forced them to reveal In-bae's whereabouts. In this situation, they could only obediently reveal In-bae's location. Soo-hyuk drove the two of them to the exit. Jin realized that his pet dog had been killed, and pain filled his heart. At the same time, Jin also realized that someone had come to his base. The truth was that Sung-jun had arranged for a new assassin to solve this problem. These people had already fallen into the hands of the enemy. In-bae was also captured. They entered the house house and saw only an assassin sitting upright in the hall. Jin stepped forward with the determination to avenge his pet dog, but before he could do anything, he was knocked down by the enemy. After the dust settled, Jin left with his lover and drove off. While they were still dreaming of a happy life, a car rushed from the side and crashed into the BMW, sending it flying. Then someone got out of the driver's seat, and it was Sung-jun. Sung-jun walked to the BMW with a gun. When Sung-jun discovered that people in the car were a pair of assassins, he felt frustrated because they were too free to drive other people's cars. However, things had already happened, and Sung-jun had no intention of holding them back. Sung-jun raised his pistol and prepared to shoot. At this time, Jin-ae was seriously injured but still managed to get the nail gun and shot Sung-jun before he could fire. As a result, Sung-jun also collapsed to the ground. Not long after, Soo-hyuk carried In-bae out of the ruins. At this time, Soo-hyuk no longer had the mind to think about the three corpses on the ground. Finally, Soo-hyuk gave up the gangster life to start a normal life with his daughter. In-bae, the movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you again.